please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, it's a good start to the week, actually. The Nifty is holding on to the 9,850 odd mark. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not we can close above this level, because I remember Friday afternoon as well, we were talking about how well the Nifty was doing, and suddenly things went wrong. In terms of the option space, well, a couple of strikes is what we are looking at in today's trade. So you pull up the 9,800 put, that's the most active in today's trade, giving you a sense that in fact the smarter money is writing that strike. They believe the 9,700 level from where we bounced the last time around, that one should hold out, and even the 9,700 put, that as well is fairly active in today's trade. So just keep your eye out on that front. A whole host of stocks moving around. We have Universal Cables, case in point, that spiked up. Vindhya Telelinks as well is doing quite well, and the other couple of stocks, HEG as well as Graphite India, both those two stocks are spiking up as we speak. Well, plenty to cover in the next half hour order. First up though, let's run you through all the top stories as we speak. The markets are off day's highs after a firm start. Frontline indices gain close to around 0.5%. The Nifty is doing, and suddenly things went wrong. In terms of the option space, well, a couple of strikes is what we are looking at in today's trade. So you pull up the 9,800 put, that's the most active in today's trade, giving you a sense that in fact the smarter money is writing that strike. They believe the 9,700 level from where we bounced the last time around, that one should hold out, and even the 9,700 put, that as well is fairly active in today's trade. So just keep your eye out on that front. A whole host of stocks moving around. We have Universal Cables, case in point, that spiked up. Vindhya Telelinks as well is doing quite well, and the other couple of stocks, HEG as well as Graphite India, both those two stocks are spiking up as we speak. Well, plenty to cover in the next half hour order. First up though, let's run you through all the top stories as we speak. The markets are off day's highs after a firm start. Frontline indices gain close to around 0.5%. The mid-cap index underperforms marginally. And good sales numbers coming in September. That's what's driving auto sales higher. Tata Motors surges over 3% after it sees strong growth in the CV segment. Bajaj Auto also gains on the back of good sales in September.
And CNBC TV18 news break confirmed. Reliance Communication calls off its proposed merger with Aircel, but says the deal for the tower business sale to Brookfield still intact. The stock is down and out today.
And it's a good listing for another insurance player, SBI Life Insurance. The stock lists at a 5% premium to the issue price of 700 rupees. Its peer, ICICI Prudential, also sees a gain of close to 6%.
Base metals like zinc surged to the highs that we've seen in 10 years, led to trades at 10-month highs on supply concerns as 60% of lead and zinc mines in one of the regions in China face a shutdown. Okay, well, let's get talking on some important news which is going to flash by for you in just a bit, and this is with regards to Reliance Communication. The failure of Reliance Communications' deal with Aircel may in fact have larger repercussions. CNBC TV18 learns from sources that the tower sale to Brookfield has also hit a roadblock at this point in time. Nisha joins in with all of the exclusive details on this. Nisha, go ahead.
Thanks for that, Ekta. Of course, Reliance Communications management has come to our channel and they've already clarified that they are renegotiating. But what we do gather from sources with direct knowledge who are working on this transaction and the private equity players as well, that the deal indeed is in troubled waters, because the entire construct of the transaction was based on Aircel merging with Reliance Communications and they forming an entity, and after that the tower sale to happen. Now we do gather that Brookfield is keeping door ajar for further renegotiation, but is there a hectic negotiation right now and is the deal really moving fast? I don't get that indication at this point from my sources. What I do gather is that Brookfield is under no obligation to buy out Reliance Communications towers. Also remember that there are many tower assets on sale at this point, so they would look at renegotiating this transaction at much lower valuations given the desperation on Reliance Communications side as well. I do gather from sources that the earlier construct had valued 100% of the tower business of Reliance Communications at 11,000 crore rupees. And now the deal could be much lower than that if at all the deal were to happen. Now that is going to have two implications. First, on Reliance Communications in terms of paying off that 45,000 crore rupees of debt. A large part of it was supposed to come from the tower sale. So less than 11,000 crore rupees for the entire tower sale will be very minimal to really allay fears on the banking community which have exposure to Reliance Communication. Another very important impact of this transaction on the overall telecom sector is that many other tower assets are on sale. Bharti Infratel, Indus looking at the merger, Idea as well as Vodafone looking at their independent tower sales as well. All of their valuations could really be reworked based on Brookfield reworking Reliance Communications tower as well. But of course, there are other moving parts as well. So yeah, larger implications, larger repercussions, but the street is very tentative about Reliance Communications at this point because of Brookfield transaction being very tentative and that throwing bigger concerns about their debt repayment ability.
Okay, Nisha, thanks so much for that. Well, on the back of Nisha's exclusive over there, just take a look at the stock. It's getting pounded. It's moved to the low point of the day. Clearly, this will not be good news at all. And with it, you know, Reliance Communications has moved in lower. And we've seen this in the past. The other group stocks as well are suddenly moving lower. So you pull up Reliance Infra, that stock suddenly has slipped in the last few minutes. Reliance Power as well, a bit of a leg down over there. So clearly the group as well, you know, in good times, we see all of them move higher. Now, in fact, all of them have moved to the low point of the day. So just keep them on your radar as well. But let's move on with the show then. We have our guest with us, Sharmila Joshi, who's with us to answer all the fundamentals, and Rajat Bose as well, joining in to answer all the technicals. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, we have a caller who's standing by. We have Nitin who calls from Mumbai, and he has a query. Hi, Nitin. Good afternoon. How can we help you?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. My question is regarding that Maruti. I just want to ask, should I enter at the current level or should I wait for the more downside from the here? Because the sales numbers are coming good, but just I want to know about the outlook.
Okay, all right, valid question. Thanks for calling, Nitin. Sharmila, let's come across to you. Well, the numbers, you know, they looked more or less achievable, but I think it's like that good student in class. When you gave numbers that were expected, street, you know, wasn't very impressed. That's why the stock was trading in the red from early morning itself. Can you enter at these levels? Interesting question.
You know, as you, to just sort of extend your analogy, I think if you look at the good student in class, it's always got the best marks also.
Yeah.
So, you know, so Maruti's been that kind of a student really. So, but you know, I think that if you were to really look at a stock appreciation point of view from here on, for the simple reason that we haven't seen too much of a run-up in an M&M or a Bajaj Auto, and numbers have been fairly decent there as well. Maybe you could see some outperformance in the short term and even in the long term for that matter. So I think from a longer term perspective, definitely I'd prefer these two. Medium term, maybe, you know, Rajat can answer better.
Okay, well, Rajat, then posing that question to you about Maruti, what would your take be?
Well, I personally feel that this is one of the most expensive automotive stocks in the world as of now at current prices. So I would not be buying until there is a substantial correction. So perhaps it would be better to actually thinking of entering into Maruti around 7,500. And if you were to do that, then please put a stop loss below 7,000. I'm of course talking from a trading perspective. And if you are a very long-term investor, then the game is yours.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Rajat.
We just told you about the renegotiation of the Relcom-Aircel deal, but we did speak to Puneet Garg, the ED of Reliance Communication, and here's what he had to say. Remember that stock currently is now at the low point of the day, down around 11%.
We are in discussion with the Brookfield. As you know, the value naturally will be different from earlier figure. And we are open at this moment to full 100% exit upfront as well. And we will make announcement in, in next few weeks at appropriate time.
Okay, so let's hope that there would be something constructive from the company with regards to Brookfield, at least in the next couple of days. But like Nisha told you, that there could be some roadblocks that they are facing. But let's get back to a couple of queries and answer them. Right now, we have the Nifty, which is up around 0.6%, but the broader markets have given up all of the earlier momentum that we had seen. So the mid-cap index is currently up around 0.4%. Devin Shah calls us from Ahmedabad with a query. Devin, hi.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon. What's your question?
I got NMDC 400 shares. 200 I had got in the IPO and 200 in the I bought from the market for averaging. But I think it's my average price is 230 and NMDC is on the slide only downwards. What to do?
Okay. How long are you comfortable with holding it for?
I'm already holding since the IPO. I think it's 8-10 years the IPO took place of NMDC, approximately.
Okay. As in, how long are you okay with holding it for now? If
there are prospects, I'll hold it because I hold it for so long.
Yes.
Otherwise, if there are no prospects, then I need to take a call based on the advice.
Okay, fair enough. Sharmila, first over to you. What would you recommend? Do you think that it's time to book losses on this one and reinvest?
Well, I think that 230 is obviously, it's twice of where the price is currently. So I think, that's not going to be easy in coming. But all I feel is that perhaps this could be a bad price to sell at, simply because I think that things for metals and iron ore are turning. We have seen a correction in the recent weeks in iron ore prices, but these are sort of adjustments I would feel in a longer term sort of positive trend for a lot of these metals. So just on the basis of that, I think you could see prices of closer to 140, 145. But as I said, 230 is really much beyond what I'm looking at least in the current scenario. So I really leave it up to him, because in a market, if it were to turn, for instance, and if we were to get back to the kind of momentum market we saw a month back, then there is an opportunity loss for you to be invested in NMDC. So I would say, as I said, 140, 145 would be the kind of target I have in mind.
Keep your eye on the Nifty. We've climbed a bit as well in the last few minutes. Coal India, well, the numbers are expected to be good for the month of September. We had the management who joined us. They said that they were expecting to do more than a 15% growth. That's come about. For the first half of the year, they've done an 8% growth. Second half of the year, to achieve that 600 million tons that they have been talking about, well, they'll have to do 12.5%. And on a per month basis, they'll have to do nearly around 54-55 million tons. So those numbers look good. In the last 50 days, I think so, the stock has recovered from around 240 to 272 odd. And the numbers as good as expected. We had the management on our channel itself, and they said, yes, we will achieve that number. And it appears that that's the good news. Well, Bajaj Auto as well is making a bit of an up move. And ITC, that's a heavier boy. And when that moves up, definitely it does help the Nifty as well. But let's take the next query then. We have Hans Kumar, who writes to us from Kolkata. He holds 500 shares of BHEL at around 131 since the past 1 month. Medium-term investor wants to know whether or not to hold or to sell. Oopsie, quite a big loss. So there, Rajat, coming across to you, what would you suggest?
I would say that he needs to hold on to it, because there is a possibility that going forward there might be a recovery, and so I would suggest holding on to it with a stop loss below 77 on the downside. And if a lower stop is warranted, then it should be 65 or so.
Okay, Sharmila, BHEL?
I would also say hold, largely because I hope that going forward in the next 6 months of the year, we see an improvement for stocks within companies within this space, whether it is infrastructure or as BHEL's book is skewed largely towards power, some improvement in that. Because I think that a lot of the negatives are now in the price, the kind of commentary that one has heard from the players in this sector, as well as, the order flow and the general numbers. I think the general despondency is all now reflected in the price. So I think that you can expect with slightly better numbers and slightly better outlook, you can expect pullbacks to 100 plus kind of levels. Of course, 131 again, the buying price is, though at that time I'm sure, they must like the investor would have bought it against a backdrop of much higher prices and a correction from there. But I think that 131 will take a long time in coming. But I think for now, for me, again, it's a hold.
Okay, all right. We have some news on the screen. JSPL, they're going to be issuing 4.8 crore convertible warrants to the promoter. I think earlier this year as well, we heard about that. We were waiting for this news. Then, in fact, they said, yes, they'll be holding their meeting on October 3rd. And yeah, I think we'll have to get what is the conversion price as well. That's going to be quite important. Remember, in terms of warrants, 25% will come up upfront. And then after the 18 months, then in fact, we'll get the remaining amount of money. The market cap, if I'm not mistaken, is only around 12,000 12,000 crores approximately, and the debt in their books is 45 to around 46,000 crores. So just keep that in mind as well. Well, India has moved to the high point of the day. Well, there are a few more details that we're getting in from Anshu Sharma. So let's get straight to that CNBC TV18 exclusive that was flashing for you on the screen. Sources tell us that captive power producers from steel as well as cement sector, they are in fact facing some acute shortage of coal. Anshu Sharma joins in with more details. Anshu, fill us in.
That's right, Nigel. As you know, that captive power producers mean that the sectors which are non-power like steel, cement, aluminium, the CPP or the captive power producers have written a letter to the coal ministry seeking intervention for coal availability as per Coal India contracts of coal supply. Apparently, CIL has written to its subsidiary and the railway saying that the rakes which are used for transferring the coal should be only for independent power producers as there is shortage for coal. But we understand that CPP is facing coal shortage. Hindalco itself has 150 coal rakes pending for over 6 months, whereas Vedanta, which is also based in Orissa, has 108 coal rakes pending for over 6 months from CIL subsidiaries. The companies say that industry average materialization on allocation by Coal India, the quantity is less than 65% for the captive power producers. The companies are facing huge rake issues for supply of coal, and there is like zero stock at their plants, and they are running on as and when the supply is coming for coal. So the port, they also say that there's a huge deficit of 30 million ton of coal because now Coal India has been asked to supply to import-based plants which are based on the port. So that 30% deficit is due to Coal India supplying to imported coal-based projects. So CPP has written to the coal ministry saying that there should be increase in rakes for supply of coal to these units as they are running at a very or supercritical level of coal supply. Back to you.
Okay, Anshu, thanks very much for that. And on that note, we also have to wrap up the show. But do remember, you can keep sending us all of your stock queries by posting it on our Money Control message board. Stay tuned. Closing bell will take you through the last hour of trade.